So basically, going to be working more on the planks today. Alright. So basically, I'm just trying to make it look like the last plank that I made. This guy. So what I could do... Since it's sort of kind of like that, I might... Oh, that's right. I'm looking at it upside, like from the top. We'll use this. Excuse me for my belches. This way I have a well, yeah, this and that, this. What is going on here? Oh, because the group is locked. One moment, just trying to work out the reference up here. Might just have to kind of cheese it a little bit. Oh, no. Or not. Maybe I should change that up a little bit. Well, shoot. Maybe I can try this again. I need a much more square picture. Seems square-ish. Let's try that. Curses. I'm just not going to mess with it. I'm just wasting time. So anyway, let's do this a little bit saner. Okay. And so, like, as a lot with a lot of the work before, going to be using like orbs brushes, for instance. And we'll go do that. So the big one that I use is Orb Cracks. Oh, there's also another good one. And again, I seem to bring these brushes up every stream so far. It's from a pack that I bought from ZBrush Guides. And then this had a deep standard, which is similar to like dam standard. But then I just run it at 16 intensity, similar to the way I run dam standard. And then that actually gives me pretty good shapes. So I'm definitely going to be trying it on this as I kind of flush this out a little bit and detail it more. And this was a previous board that I had made. I was basically just trying to bring that up, bring this one up to the speed, up to this one. And do let me know if it seems like the music is a little too loud. I don't have monitors set up very well, and honestly the music is as much for me as it is for anybody watching. So I can't test to see how it mixes. All I've done is like local recording tests. No. Clay buildup. Honestly, I'd almost say This is one of those cases that it might benefit to actually break the rules a little bit and have something like clay buildup run with a grain like this, instead of usually building it up across the form, because then you start getting these rush strokes that actually work out pretty good. I may go back over this one with that technique just to kind of add a little final little touch. Probably want to fix this one up though. Yeah, I'm kind of liking that. That maybe if the strokes were more deliberate, maybe. Well, I'll just smooth it out a little bit, and then I'll come back in through and fix it up similar to this one. Well, you know, I think I might have been using slash on these. Let's see. Yeah, slash curve. This one with similar settings to like Dam Standard or the Deep Standard. You know, around 16, 17-ish. And then you kind of get these nice stark lines that don't get a lot of the pinching that you might get with the Dam Standard. It's like it's even much more noticeable with these larger sizes, but you can see how it kind of pulls all those faces down. And of course, like the smaller size, it isn't as pronounced, but it still kind of does that. Which is why I like to use kind of like a mix, so if I need a little bit more control over those finer details, that's easy to do. Yes, I do have a YouTube channel. I'm actually surprised that I missed it on the... it's because like my YouTube channel, I don't have a whole lot of subscribers yet, so my URL is really long and it's a mess. So I do, but it's not easily accessible yet. So when that is the case, then there will be a link up at the top. But otherwise, it's not easy to link. I can link it in chat. So here, give me just 1 second, and I can give you my YouTube channel. Now, the team doesn't have a YouTube channel yet, but like that's something that we need to do, and I'm gonna have either myself or my brother, or maybe probably gonna say his name wrong. But I want to say Georgie or something like that. One of us will set up more of a social media. But for now, the YouTube channel that I have available this is mine, using my personal brand stuff. Okay, so back to the plank. And to be honest, I've probably put way too much work into these planks considering the distance that they're going to be seen at. But it's also fun just to sculpt on these. And then I'm going to use some of these brush strokes that kind of appear in here, and then I'll kind of redefine those further with Dam Standard Slash and this Slash Curve and the Deep Standard. Then of course I still have the other side to do this guy. Oh man, I wasn't even keeping track at the time when I started this. Okay, well, at about the hour and 10 mark, I think we're going to have to call this stream good. Maybe a little bit sooner. I'm also kind of watching our bandwidth usage right now. I don't want that to get too out of hand. And then so from these planks, I'm going to snatch some elements that I like the most, because like I'm not working from concepts for these. I'm actually concepting at the same time I'm sculpting these. So for all I know, we could end up replacing these things. But from here, once I'm happy with some of these elements, I'm going to snatch them up into alphas for use on the two beams that I need to make. And so hopefully that will give us enough variation and speed that up a little bit, and speed things up in the future when we make other wood plank elements, which I'm sure is coming. I see it. And so it would be nice to have like that artistic consistency. And a good way of doing that would be lifting certain elements from this. And again, if anybody has any suggestions in regards to the style. Things that you think that might improve it, or things you think I'm doing wrong. I'm certainly open to some different ideas or approaches. Okay. See, like I think I'm still gonna kind of flatten this down a little bit. And usually I'll do that in one of these lower subdivisions, and then just kind of use Trim Dynamic to smooth it down. Some of these details that were imparted by the clay buildup will be a little bit retained by some of those higher subdivisions. But this will kind of help bring everything down on the same level, so to speak. Still make it seem more like a manufactured plank. It's just trying to find like that right amount of, like wear. Since trying to make it look old and weathered and aged. See, and then some of those high frequency stuff still kind of retained in there. And it's just kind of a matter of kind of finishing things up a little bit with some of these other brushes. Seriously, this ZBrush Guides Deep Standard has got to be one of my favorites. These is getting a little intense there. Checking interaction stuff, making sure that I'm not missing anything. And then this will just get a quick retopo in Blender, and then unwrap and then bake everything in Substance Painter. Before Substance Painter, I use a lot of XNormal and Photoshop, and that was not a pleasant experience, and I never want to ever do that again. I think XNormal is great. I don't have anything against XNormal, but the whole being so disconnected from your model during the texturing process sucks. That's why I vastly prefer Substance Painter. some slash curve in there. Just doing this double jointed thing on me. Hello. Hello. I'm gonna go to this. Yeah, smooth that out a bit. Man, now I feel like the other plank needs some work based on some of the stuff I've done here. See, that's what I get for taking too long between sculpting sessions. Change my workflow just enough that there's an inconsistency between them already. Another great reason is why I really need to make those alphas. And then I can snatch some of this stuff and then just basically stamp it out. Well, shouldn't mess with that stuff at the moment. And again, I'm just kind of jumping around between these different brushes, just trying to find right look, some that fits. Yeah, one of the things I do is basically treat smooth, like when you hold shift, this brush here, basically is like erase. I think it was the Flip Normals guys, they suggested basically treating it like when you turpentine or otherwise use solvent to smooth, like a traditional clay sculpting. If that resonates at all. Okay. Slow stuff. Oh. Stream pooped. Delay's still okay. And so if, for whatever reason, you dislike watching streams here on Facebook, I do stream on Twitch. You can find me under Mr. Popcorn Bag. And I will also be uploading this stream to YouTube, assuming that the recording goes okay. And so that might actually be a better viewing experience for some folks if I'm cutting out too much. Because that will be that's being saved through a different process. And I wasn't sure if I had enough processor to give up for that operation, but as it turns out, it seems to be working out okay. Yeah, see, and this is where damn standard's nice, because now we get more of the pinching, and kind of gives it a rounding kind of wear, and then especially at these lower resolutions. And so then when you pop up, it's almost like using the standard brush, because standard brush, it does there's some level of detail preservation. This is more just kind of taking advantage of detail preservation through subdivisions as it exists in ZBrush. I'm not really sure how other modeling applications handle this. I think the closest you get with Blender is through the multi-res modifier, but I haven't really done a whole lot of sculpting there. Just very basic stuff. I actually kind of prefer sculpting in ZBrush over Blender. It's just the workflow. Just feels a little bit better. Which is kind of bizarre to say when I think about the fact that I spent an ungodly amount of time trying to learn this unintuitive application. I think it would have been easier to become a brain surgeon. And I'm certain that the UX devs, they were aliens. Now I'm going to be going over the first plank using some of the techniques I'm using here to kind of finish that up a little bit. And then of course, some of this texturing I'm going to wrap it up in Substance Painter. So even though this first one, other than like a couple of things that I want to change up a bit, looks a little dull, it'll get a little bit more character with coloring and all that good stuff. Proper bakes. I really need to work on this other side, though. And I don't want to. I mean, look at this thing. Alright. So I at least know what that side looks like. It's also moderately tempting to just mirror everything to the other side and then make some edits. But I think that might look obvious. Yeah, there's a couple ways to kind of go about flattening this. Earlier in the creation of this, I used the more global method, as it were, using the transpose line, and then just kind of drawing this guy out on one of the axes, and then using move to come in and kind of do something like this. Of course, as you can see, it's pretty ham-fisted. You don't get as much control. It's good for earlier on, but if you're needing to refine your shapes and refine your details, something like trim dynamic, or even flatten, polish is definitely a good one. I'd say that H polish is a little overkill, but you know, maybe that works for you for the style that you're going for. Obviously I want some level of mirroring here, since the board isn't that thick. The knot is going to mostly be the same through the board. There's obviously going to be some growth differences, so just kind of tweaking these shapes until something looks okay. Oh, and then for some of these forms, like if I want to just erase them, there's a couple of approaches. There's obviously the smoothing approach, which is basically, you know, pretty nuclear. Like if we just zapped it like that. But I also like using trim dynamic and then filling in with alt. And then it's just a matter of letting alt, you know, of releasing alt, go over it, apply alt, fill up, and release it. All is part of, you know, this kind of the same procedure. And so you can kind of, at least for me, it builds up a sort of cadence or momentum to the strokes that make it a little bit more consistent, I guess. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe it's garbage. Maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. But it works for me. So this is like this board end here. Trying to figure out how I want to approach this. I definitely want to use some polishing. Because it's just too rounded. And then of course with some of the forms, like near these edges, I'll sometimes use just this normal standard brush at like 8 intensity, kind of build it up a little bit that way, and that kind of gives it a little that uneven wear and tear and aging that kind of happens with wood. Now, obviously, with stylized, you're not trying to replicate everything that happens in nature. However, there are certain things that people kind of look for. It's like, yeah, okay, that's wood, or yes, that's a person, or a chicken, or a cat, or any of those things, and they all have certain features to them that you're looking for. In many cases, subconsciously. So, using real life examples to do stylized work, I would argue, is certainly important. Because I don't know how many bad horse drawings you've seen, but there's some really good internet famous examples, and I can show you why, even when you're doing an impressionist painting, that you probably should, actually look at a horse, or look at the flower, or the snake, or whatever it is, so you understand like those base forms that make it what it is in real life, and then where those deviations will happen with your style. Pinch these together just a smidge. that's why. Interesting. Since this is heavily reliant on the alpha, get a little bit of resolution bleed as it does its business. That's okay. Okay, I'm going to take like a partial break. I'm not going to do the whole screen the screen thing. I'm just going to hide my camera real quick. I'm right here. I'm just need to get up and stretch, that sort of thing. So about the end of the stream. I'll say, what, 6 more minutes-ish? Yeah, again, one of those cases where just kind of build this up just a bit. So it's not as intense, I guess you could say. And added benefit of pushing up some of those details in the process to make it look even more organic. And again, it's just kind of using some of these behaviors, to your advantage. A creative problem solving, thinking about things in a slightly different way, just to get the most out of the application. And you can see how, like, as we kind of define these up, this looks more and more low res. So eventually we'll get to match this side, and then we can see that there's like little holes and more nicks and scratches and other light surface details that we'll have to sneak into the other ones, slashes, that sort of thing. That's pretty easy. Hammer marks, stuff like that. Stuff that might have been, maybe a rock that was thrown, maybe, back. Maybe I can sneak in a hole in here for where there used to be a nail. And of course, a lot of these etching details that we'll kind of try to replicate here as well. I feel like all those years of trying lightening his little cracking squiggly lines has finally paid off. And then again, of course, I'll be going back over this with trim dynamic at a lower resolution. And then that'll help kind of get me to something a little bit closer to this. And again, these assets are going to be seen. I want to say this might be the biggest we might end up seeing them, but even that might be larger. So some of those smaller details kind of disappear. However, those details will get accentuated a bit when I go to texture this. So some of these details are basically kind of, it's like, yeah, I want this to come through on a particular map bake so that when I go to texture this in Substance Painter, that detail becomes more obvious. I can give it a specific color, stuff like that. It's like cheating. And again, I'm using Alpha 06 instead of like the default one, which is something like this. You get better gradients. Excuse me. And so you get these nice brush, brush marks, these tooling edges. And it's those tooling edges I'm basically using more than anything. But with the added benefit of distorting the surface a little bit, that kind of helps with breaking it up and getting a more organic, wood-like look. Alright, looks like I'm going to be stopping this here real soon. So if anybody has any questions, comments, suggestions, now is a great time to bring them up. If there's something specific that you'd like to go over in a stream, and maybe I know how to do it, I can certainly show how I approach the problem. So I think I want to go ahead and save this guy. So I think it's getting close. Maybe another hour stream might do it. Yeah, other than that, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.